It is just a huge honor of mine today to be podcast interviewing Don Chiappetti. We've been out here in the Valley of the Sun for the same 3 decades, and I've been a big fan of his, and we know so many common people. Dr. Don Chiappetti is a Scottsdale, Arizona native. He graduated with a DDS from USC in 1988 and has been in private practice since. Don has been committed to continuing education, has studied and worked in many of the world's finest clinicians. He holds positions in several professional associations. He received his BA from the U of A in 1980, received his DDS from the prestigious University of Southern Cal in 1988. And now your son goes there, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And has been committed to continue education ever since. He has concentrated his time and skills in learning advanced dental procedures and techniques in general and cosmetic dentistry. He has lectured and presented seminars on smile design and dental aesthetics. To remain leading edge in patient care, he is active member of the AGD, ADA, Central Arizona Dental Society, the Scottsdale Paradise Valley Study Club, which he just lectured at last month, Give Back a Smile for Victims of Domestic Violence, Christina's Smile Care for Boys and Girls Club, certified in CERAC 1 restoration, certified in Invisalign, teeth whitening. Dr. Chiappetti has successfully helped thousands of discriminating patients with their dental health, including general, complex, restorative, and aesthetic dental concerns. So I got to tell you, so when I got out of UMKC in 87, I did the whole demographics Arizona, and I found this rocking hot place in North Scottsdale, but I didn't go there because, like, you're a good-looking guy. I mean, you could be a cosmetic dentist in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley now. And I thought, man, I'm Kansas bumpkin, and I wanted Phoenix. I didn't want any of that. I remember one of the first times I went to a dental party up in North Scottsdale, and this dentist was talking about this other guy, and I said, which one is he? And he goes, he's the one with the such and such shoes. And I thought, oh, I am in the wrong crowd. I knew Nike and Adidas. I didn't know that people could recognize the name of your shoe. But you have crushed it up there.
Yeah, I've been very blessed.
Years.
Very grateful. You know, back in 30 years ago, Scottsdale wasn't quite what it is today, I should say. You know, back then you'd have you'd go to the local watering hole, and there'd be a doctor and a farmer and a banker and an artist and a cowboy and a native guy, and everybody. Now it's not like that at all. Now it's becoming a lot more discerning and discriminating, as it were. And I don't know if it's changed for the better, but you know, it was a really good place to live and make a living back then. Now it's a good place to make a living.
Well, you're over in Scottsdale. I'm in South Phoenix, and it's really changed over the last 30 years.
Yeah, it really has. Where you practice, I used to go dove hunting, and where I practice, I'm ashamed to say, but my parents still live 2 blocks from where I practice, you know. So I haven't evolved very far in my lifetime, but no, I've been lucky to do real well there. My dad was a dentist there in Scottsdale. He started in 1960, and at that time there was one medical and dental office in Scottsdale, one. And now there was a pharmacy and a couple of physicians, pediatricians, and then he was one of the first dentists there. And so now, of course, there's one on every corner, but so he sold that dental practice to me in 1988. I kind of thought it'd be...
That's the year you graduated.
Yeah, I kind of thought it'd be father and son, you know, forever. And he threw the keys on the desk and said, send the checks here. I'll see you later, boy. And that was the end of that.
He retired at that point?
He did. And about 3 months we practiced together was all. And I asked him later, I said, why did you do that? I wanted to work with you, and he said, I'll help you with cases. You come over and I'll tell you about the patients. I'll teach you who the patients are. Then I'll help you with the dentistry. He said, but if I stick around too long, we're going to end up butting heads. And so he sold it to me, and then I sold it to Jonathan Coombs, who I think you might know. Yeah, I sold it to him in 15, I think. No, I'm sorry. I sold to him in 2009, but I kind of stuck around, and much like you, I just can't let it go all the way. So I'm still there treating some of the great patients that we have and some of the people that I've known for 40 and 50 years.
So how old was your dad when he sold it to you?
54.
And so he retired at 54, and he's still alive and lives 2 blocks away with your mom?
Yeah. They both live there.
Wow.
He comes down to the office and steals my stamps and uses the copy machine and marvels at the technology.
And why did you want to have an exit strategy in 2009? So that was 10 years ago.
Okay, that's a good question.
Yeah.
At that time, I really did not like the management aspect of it. And I thought I would kind of taper off and ride into the sunset. And I was very blessed to have a great career. So I thought, I'll be okay financially. But then when it came time to do it, I said, no, man, I don't know if I want to cut the lifeline all the way. So I ended up selling it to Jonathan, and yet I stayed on as an associate at that point. We kind of swapped roles.
So how many dentists are there then? How many?
Right now, there's 3. Brandon Riff, who now bought the practice in 2015. I think he's going to be on your podcast.
Yeah, he sold it. Combs sold it to him?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And so both of us are still there in an associate capacity.
So why did Combs want to sell?
He had a lot of irons in the fire. He had a couple of other businesses that were extremely time consuming and lucrative. And so he decided that he couldn't devote all the time he needed to Scottsdale Smile Center, and so he sold. But he's much like me. He doesn't want to completely cut ties because he loves doing certain things. You know how you love doing certain cases. It's exciting, it's fun, it's great. If you could do 1 or 2 of those a day and go home, that's the way to go.
Whenever I thought about selling my dental office, I thought, okay, now I'm going to have to take a room in my house and make an operatory.
Right.
But you don't think through, you're going to need a compressor, a vac. And when you start thinking of everything you're going to need, just leave it there.
And that's kind of what we've done. And we've been blessed to be able to have a really great facility. But like I said, we've got patients that have been that I've known for all my entire life. We've got patients that are 3rd generation there, and I'm not going to just turn my back on those people. And
so what about your son? Do you see him entering this practice?
I'm going to leave that up to him, but the opportunity is available for him. He'd be the 3rd generation coming into that practice in Scottsdale, and we'll see what he wants to do. If he doesn't specialize, he may come there. And he at one point he said something about, I'll do a GPR, and I'm like, no. You get out. You go to every course Frank Spear ever took. You go to study with John Coyce. You go study with Bill Strupp in Florida. There's some of these guys that are my mentors. Galip Gurel. Go study with these guys. That'll be better than any GPR you could ever possibly imagine.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to get on the show because you're in a very competitive market. You've been crushing it for 3 decades. Your dad was a dentist. You're a dentist. Your son's a dentist.
Yeah.
When we got here, there were no dental schools.
Right.
When you were born, there was no dental schools. There was no fluoride in the water till 1989. And then the adjacent states, Utah didn't have any dental schools. Now it's got 2. Vegas, Nevada didn't have any. It's got 1. And now yesterday, our governor, Doug Ducey, signed a bill that if you have a license in another state, you don't need any red tape to come here. So how many dentists? So the landscape's really changed. I mean, we're down here. I've read reports that said that 10% of the homes sold in some years were just to Canadians. How many Canadian dentists are in North and South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota? What do you think what do you think of the competitive environments? What I'm trying to say. That big long rant was, you've seen it go from almost no competition to just drowning in competition.
I think that's a good question, but I believe that the biggest threat to the individual dentist is not another dentist. I believe it is a corporate mentality, or these DSOs, that's going to buy up these big venture capital guys that are going to buy up these conglomerates and then just run those dentists through the mill. I think that's what we need to fight against, personally. I'm not afraid of competition. I never would. There's always room for cream. Always the cream at the top, if that's what you want to do. I think as a young guy, you need to make up your mind. This is the kind of practice I want to have. This is the kind of life I want to have. If I want to have a life that I go home at 5 o'clock and I travel on 3 trips a year and I make $175,000 a year, and if that's the kind of life you want, then I think that maybe you could work for a corporation or a DSO or work for somebody else. But I think that if you want to be your own boss, you better position yourself early to do that in various ways. So the threat to me, or the competition, is not between dentists. The competition is between non-dentist owned corporations. That's what scares me more than the guy moving in from Iowa. And I think for a dentist that's mid-career, late career, I think those guys moving in could be a good adjunct to your practice, because some of them that have established a practice in Iowa or Minnesota or North Dakota, as you mentioned, if they come to town, they're not going to want to bust their hump too much. They may want to, they may be able to add to an existing practice a couple of days, give the guy some relief. So I don't really think that, I don't see that as a huge detriment to a young dentist, the competition, personally.
This is one of the dumbest mistakes I ever made. So when I got out of school, I wanted to have expended hours, so I got an associate, day one, and I wasn't smart enough to get some guy who practiced 30 years and was retiring and could come teach me everything. I was so young and dumb at 24. I wanted homies my age that wanted to do the same beer and drink and have fun. I just did it for the social needs. Mm-hmm. And but
I'll bet it turned out that they wanted to be you after a while.
The average one stayed about 7 years, then opened up their own practice and lived happily ever after. But that's the next question I was going to ask you is we each have children. Does it seem like when you were at USC, everybody wanted to own their own dental office, own their own business, and today, are the millennials, is there a significant chunk of them that say, I don't want to wear all those hats, I just want to come in and be a doctor? Has that changed?
In talking to my some of the students at the local schools here, and in talking to some of my friends, or my son's friends, I think that the majority would love to own their own practice. The thing that's the variable that's changed since the time you and I were there was the huge cost. My son told me the other day, he goes, Dad, look at it this way. I'm getting $1 million education for only half the cost. I'm like, oh, great. So he's going to be basically an indentured servant for a while. I mean, how is this supposed to pencil out? A guy coming out of school is $500,000 in debt and doesn't have a job.
You think your son will be $500,000?
About $450,000, yeah.
$450,000 student loans?
Because Daddy ain't paying,
Plus, how much did you have to pay to bribe him to get into USC?
I know
I've been hearing about
that's low-hanging fruit, Howard. That's a cheap shot right there, yeah. No, it might have been cheaper had I bribed somebody. I don't know, but no.
Is that school?
Oh man, they've taken their lumps. Yeah.
What's your son think about all that?
Oh, he just kind of shakes his head and walks the other way. He's so busy in the lab working till midnight trying to make a polyacrylic resin fit a model that he doesn't know what's going on.
Humans are quite funny little creatures, but
that is a true story.
But when he comes out of school, though, so your dad still lives by your office. You're second generation. Do demographics matter? I mean, could your son go into your practice despite all the increased competition, or would you tell him you need to do it?
I believe he can. You
believe he can?
I do, and I think that if there's if the competition is a given, and I don't feel it that much, but I'm sure that a young guy would, then I think you need to position yourself to set yourself apart some way, somehow. And this would be my recommendation to young guys is determine how you want to live and how you want to practice. If you want to be that $175,000 a year, quit at 5, no responsibility guy, that's one thing. But if you want to be your own boss and have a fancy boutique practice and do all bonded ceramics and high-end comprehensive dentistry, then I think you better set yourself apart some way, somehow. And to me, that starts with continuing education. That's got to be the foundation, the competency. You don't get there overnight. And I think you better do something else marketing-wise to set yourself apart. And I'm not talking about advertising. I'm talking about marketing, some way, somehow, to set yourself apart from everybody else. I've got some mentors in dentistry. I've also got some mentors in business. And in business, I know you're a business guy, got an MBA, et cetera. In business...
But I went to ASU. He went to U of A. I just want to say that.
Yeah, but we're in the same room, and we haven't done it. There's been no violence. We agree to disagree on certain things. But the point being that I have several mentors, business mentors. Most of them are my patients. And I ask them, I said, what is your... I've got guys... Bruce Hawley from Discount Tire, Bob Parsons from GoDaddy. These are guys.
Bob Parsons?
They're my buddies.
Oh my
God.
God.
Buddies. So I listen to these guys. I don't listen to the guys that advertise in the back of the dental journal say how to run your business. I listen to the guys that have done it, right? So I'm asking them, what am I going to do to position myself, or how am I going to make myself a better business person? And they say, give people what they want, get the money, make it easy for people to give you money, do something somebody else can't or won't. Think outside the given paradigm of delivery from here's the patient, here's the dentistry. And I see that as being the digital workflow. I see that if I was a young guy and I wanted to position myself to be a, quote, high-end, fee-for-service only, call your own shots guy, I would master the digital workflow, from scanning to delivery. And I think that that's going to be the future.
And so when you say the digital workflow, is it too succinct to just say it's all digital? That's what you want to do. Everything is digital.
No, I think that
scanning.
I think that technology is wonderful if it helps you achieve the goal. My goal, and what I would recommend to my son, for example, is how are you going to give people what they want? Faster, better, easier. Not necessarily cheaper, but faster, better, and easier. If people want something, as you know, there's very little that's going to separate them from getting it. Once people, how many 50-year-old ladies want to get their smile improved? A lot. How many that really, really want it find the economics to be a barrier? Not many, in my experience.
I cringe when I say this because my dad always just held with his fingers. Does it meet the 5-finger rule? Is it faster, easier, better, cheaper, and smaller, more succinct? The first steam engines were so big, all it could do is pump water out of flooded coal mines in England. But as they got faster, easier, better, and more smaller, the shipping industry all the way down to railroads. But dentists hate it when you say cheaper, but I always say faster, easier, better, cheaper, and succinct. That is what technology. Well, first of all, when these kids come out of school, you said name them in order. Coyce. Who would you go to in descending order?
Frank Spear.
You go Spear first.
Yeah.
And you got to do him really quick. Isn't his exit strategy? Isn't he retiring next year?
Probably. I've heard that. We'll see.
Yeah. Right. Spear, Coyce.
I like Bruce Crispin, actually, at Aesthetic Professionals. He was one of my early mentors. I love the guy. Helped me a lot. Corky Wilhite. And then a lot of the Europeans,
Corky Wilhite, he's in Chicago.
He's in, he was in Louisiana at LSU.
But he always teaches with that, the cosmetic dentist in Chicago.
Yeah, he does. He teaches up there with direct residence. Well, Buddy Mopper was there.
Buddy Mopper.
Yeah. And then a lot of the Europeans, Newton Fall in Curitiba, and
Jason
Christian Coachman, who's a stud among studs. All these guys, Galip Gurel in Turkey, Bernard Tuati in France. These guys are masters. And when you get to be that level, you can call your shots, man.
Okay, but this is Dentistry Uncensored,
okay.
So I got to call bullshit on because it's not bullshit on me side. I know how she's thinking. She's commuting to work right now, and she's like, dude, I live in Parsons, Kansas. You live in Scottsdale. Can that girl in Parsons, is that, can she do everything you just said in Parsons, Kansas?
I don't
Or should
think,
she move to Beverly Hills or Scottsdale?
No, I don't think so. I think that, again, if someone wants something, if she is available or she is able to create that value, I don't think there's anything that would stand in her way.
And I actually agree because I every time I go to Wichita, Kansas, where I still got my mom, couple of sisters, cousins, all that stuff. I was at this small town. It was so funny, and we were in a town of like 2,000. And he was telling me how you just can't do that out here. And we're looking at this Mexican restaurant. There was a Circle K out there, or a Quick Stop, they call them out there. And I said, how many cars in that parking lot? And there were 7 trucks, and 4 of them were an F-150. That's $50,000. 2 was a 250, and 1 was a Ford F-350, which is $100,000.
Right.
And I said, why do these guys all have money for those F-150s? And you know how much a combine costs these days?
Oh yeah, it's exorbitant.
$500,000.
That's right.
and yet they don't have any money to save their teeth. That's
And I'm
really
not
a
talking about
mindset.
just about smile design either. I'm talking about somebody who's had removable dentures for years and they can't eat right, and now you're able to quickly, easily give them something better, implant supported something or other. I see that as a huge demand, and I don't think that particular thing is going to be determinant just on your demographic. I really don't, because if people are edentulous, you got a couple of choices. You got a denture or nothing, and as you know, a lower denture with 4 implants works great, or 2 implants sometimes with an overdenture. Is that a great service? Yeah. Can you make that back to my digital workflow thing? I think that guy that's starting out in Kansas or wherever you said, if he masters the idea of explaining to people what's available without tooting his horn, but just saying, hey, this is what we can do, and make it easy. Scan them once, implant and denture once, all digital. I think that's a good service for people, and I think he can charge more than the guy down the street that's going to make a conventional 19 appointment denture.
And where do you draw the line? Because a lot of our friends in the valley started off with CEREC, and now a lot of them only use that for the scanning part.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you draw the line between oral scanning and chairside milling? Are you pro both, or?
I'm pro both, and I think it's like anything, case selection. I think that, and I was a doubting Thomas on the CEREC, but I've been also using it for over 10 years. So I've been through the learning curve. I studied with Mark Moran up in Michigan, and oh my God. But
Rella Christensen went and spent a day with him in his office.
I wonder how those two got along.
But anyway.
So the point being that I think that CEREC is great in certain situations, but I think that there again, and this is the bigger stroke that I'm trying to paint, is that if you can use technology to meet a need for a person, that is a great service. I think it's wonderful. But sometimes we get a little reliant on that. For example, someone comes in and they've broken a cusp on an upper first molar. Well, I can do a single visit milled ceramic restoration. It's going to fit great. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be an hour and a half. It's a single visit, one shot, no temporary, the whole spiel. Great, you do it. Well, have you looked at the opposing teeth now? Have you looked at the adjacent teeth now? Back in the mid late 80s, 90s, we were looking at quadrant dentistry, full mouth dentistry, at least explaining to the patient whether they want it or not. Hey, you got this amalgam, this crack, maybe it needs to be upgraded. Makes some sense to do it at the same time you do the other one. We were doing a lot more quadrants. Now, I think we're doing a lot more back to single tooth dentistry, and that's being forced by CEREC. Yes, you can do multiple restorations in one visit, but to me that sort of defeats the purpose. To me, the beauty of it is efficiency for the time. It's certainly not a time saver for the dentist, at least in my opinion. I've been doing it a long time. I'm pretty fast. There's no way I can do a single unit faster than an hour and a half. I just can't.
Right.
I just can't. I've tried everything.
Right.
If I was going to prep it, temp it, and have them come back, total chair time would be, 45, 50 minutes maybe. So it's not a time saver. Maybe it's a little bit of a lab fee saver, maybe. But the real issue there, I think, is that are we ignoring the full mouth? Are we ignoring the big picture by just going to single tooth dentistry because it's efficient?
Well, what's funny is a role model of mine in England. He published a paper today. It says, research shows dentists underdiagnosed when faced with time pressure, says Dr. Anastasia Plas. He's got like 15 initials after his name, academic clinical fellow in England. But anyway, he did this really nice study because England's getting a lot of DSOs, and he said that the rush dentist isn't doing a complete exam. And I really credit when I came out here in '87. Omar Reed was given this big old course on complete dentistry and all this stuff like that. And I literally did not have the money. And I thought to myself, he seems like a nice guy. I bet if I show up there and tell him I don't have the money for the class, but one day I'm going to have enough money to come back, that he's going to let me in. Oh, he left. I told him that. He gave me the whole tour. I was
That's
like his
beautiful.
son
Yeah.
for the whole weekend. And he was the first guy that really drilled in my head. Complete dentistry, complete exam. How do you when they get out of school, they're overwhelmed at this broken tooth. How do you come out of AT still in these dental schools and you're like looking at this broken tooth like it's going to take everything I got to figure this out, numb it up, do the whole thing, And then you're sitting there saying, oh, forget the tooth. Go up to 30,000 feet and look at the whole mouth. Mm-hmm. How do you get from A to B?
I think that, number one, you concentrate on treatment planning. And I think that the philosophy behind that is treat the person, not the tooth. This is a person. This is a tooth. How am I going to treat this person? Now, this person may need to have this single tooth restored. Okay, but would you agree that occlusal disease is underdiagnosed? Would you say? I would too. So have we examined this person's bite? How's it affect? Is it working right? Is it not working right? Are we going to be in the are there interferences that are cause fractured teeth or jaw problems or fremitus or perio problems down the road? I don't know. Am I oh my God, I get to do a crown. I'm going to make $1,500. Or am I going to get to know this person? Tell me about yourself. Let me. What's your dental experience? What do you want? Are you happy with your smile? Do you chew comfortably? What's your goals? You want to keep your teeth forever? Treat the patient. Give them what they want. That's why I think, to answer your question in a long way, treatment planning is critical. Know the person, and that starts with a new patient exam to me. And this goes along the lines of what Omer was talking about, and Pankey's talked about for years, and Dawson's talked about for years, is treating the big picture. And that, to me, in my office, can only happen with a real thorough, extensive new patient exam. So I am the opposite of, I got a coupon in the mail, I get a checkup and bite wing x-rays and a cleaning for $100. I'm the opposite of that. I spend an hour and a half with every new patient because I want to get to know that patient. And I think that's benefited me because when it's time to present ideal treatment, people care. People are pretty smart. If they feel like they're getting a rush job and a sell job, they're not going to like that, And if they know that you care truly, and that you're not out for the buck only, I think they're going to do what you tell them after you establish this trust. So I think the new patient exam, to answer your question of how's this new kid going to treat this tooth, spend enough time to know the person, do a real comprehensive new patient exam, and then prioritize. Say, hey, yeah, you got this broken tooth. I understand it needs to be treated, and we're happy to do that for you. I also want to look at the big picture so that we can, save you money later, save you time later, save you comfort later. However you're going to present that in a way that stresses the benefits of what you're going to do.
Do you remember Perry Radcliffe?
Of course, he practiced right next door to me. I'll tell you some stories about Perry.
I want to hear him because has the competition changed our colleagues into being perceived as adversaries? Because when you talk about learning full mouth dentistry, you talk about Spear, Coyce, all these great institutes that cost money and you have to fly to go. Back when I was a baby, when you get over your head, you'd call Perry. Not only would he tell you to come over, then he'd take you out to dinner and buy you dinner and drinks till midnight. And you could just call up your periodontist. I mean, the fastest, easiest way to learn treatment planning is to have a buddy who's a periodontist up the street or someone. Do you see that changing? Do you think that atmosphere of collegial to adversary?
I think that's an excellent point. There's two issues in there. One is the idea of this collegial relationship. And like we were talking about earlier, back in the old days, we'd have an open house at somebody's office and, sit around, have a beer, a sandwich, and talk about, hey, I'm not the only one. You wouldn't believe what I saw today. Oh, this patient, and how do you do that? And this staff, and all the challenges that we face as dentists and business owners. It's nice to know that you're not in it alone. It's nice to be able to commiserate with your buddies. And we used to have more of a collegial atmosphere. And now it's become into this, I don't want to talk to that guy because he might steal my patient. I think that's wrong. I think we need to embrace our profession. It shouldn't be me against Dr. So-and-so 2 blocks down. It should be me and Dr. So-and-so against them. Whatever it is that interferes with the doctor-patient relationship. Insurance companies come to mind. It should be us against them, not us against us. So that's the one part of the question. And then the other part you were asking me about was Perry. I agree with you. The comprehensive care. When I first came to town, like my first or second day practicing, wide-eyed and terrified, Perry calls me
Like
over.
everybody.
Well, he calls me over to his office, and he says, "Come over here. I want you to look at this dark field phase contrast microscope." So I go over there, and he said, here we see, some eosinophils, some basophils. These are periodontal pathogens. He was treating periodontal disease like an infection 30 years ago. And he was branded a heretic in this town. He was like, "Oh, that's Perry. He's crazy. He doesn't, do gum surgery. He treats it like a." And of course now that's the science that we know to be true. But anyway, so I'm young guy, and I'm looking at this microscope going, I got a patient over there I'm trying to get numb. I got to do an MOD onlay on this tooth. And Perry said, "Do you want to be a dentist or a doctor? Do you want to be a tooth carpenter? If you want to be a tooth carpenter, go back and fix that tooth. If you want to be a doctor, stick here and learn about immunology." And he gave me a book on immunology. I'm like, holy crap, I'm trying to find out what kind of composite resin is going to stick to a tooth. And he wants me to learn about immunology. But as time has gone on, the point, and he sent me a ton of patients because I spent the time to learn about immunology, periodontal disease as a disease, and not necessarily a surgery template. So.
And now his son is running their mouthwash company.
Yeah, and I don't know him very well. I still use that product, by the way. I use it as a disinfectant. Remember back in the day we used to use Tubulacid and Glim and some of the disinfectants? I use that chlorine dioxide. I think it's great.
Yeah.
As a disinfectant. Cavity preparation disinfectant.
So, what percent, if you just graduated from dental school and your son's going to have 400 and that's what they have at AT still in Midwestern, all that stuff. And if he came out and say he wanted to do some Invisalign, what percent of the orthodontists in town here would say, "Yeah, come on by, bring, I'll help you work these, I'll help you with your Invisalign cases"? Or what half would think in fear and scarcity and saying, "You shouldn't be doing that, you should be sending it to me"?
Probably half, I'd say.
50-50?
I'd say so, yeah. I think that the ones that are confident in their abilities and understand the team approach to dentistry would benefit. If he was in my practice and he knew my practice, they would bend over backwards to teach me Invisalign because they want me to refer all the other ortho cases. And we have got some phenomenal specialists in this town and this country. It's dumb not to use them. I mean, I work with some great oral surgeons. I know you do too. Some great periodontists. AZ Perio's down there at Randy Fitzgerald's down there in Ahwatukee. Great periodontists. Why would I mess around with a difficult implant when these guys can do it with their eyes closed and patient benefits? So same thing with Invisalign. Yeah, I might be able to do a tough case, but I'm gonna defer that to the orthodontist every time, just because I'm not the best at it. Remember I said whatever comes between me and the patient, I get kind of resentful, and that may be my own limitations. So whatever's best for that patient, that's where they're going to go. If it's oral surgery, then they're going to go to the top oral surgeon. And I know we differ a little bit on this. I know you do a lot of surgeries and stuff yourself, but for me, and that's just my level of ability, I am not as skilled at putting in a maxillary implant on an immediate extraction. So I'm going to send them to a periodontist. So back to your question of how many orthodontists are going to help a young kid, I think that if we have a collegial approach and the dentist says to the orthodontist, "Help me with the Invisalign, and I will send you my ortho cases," it would be dumb of that orthodontist not to help them.
I just have a thing with wisdom teeth. It's a weird love affair. My assistant with me 30 years, a wisdom tooth can't hang on for 60 seconds with me. Like last Friday, I pulled 3 sets of wisdom teeth. And,
Wow.
And I'm not talking about the numbing time. I'm talking about after numb, you go
Just with local, or did you sedate them?
They're all local. I think 2 had nitrous. But when I actually go in there to remove them, I always set a timer, but I haven't gone over 5 minutes in years and years. There's nothing that little wisdom tooth can do. So that's a different love here, but
hey, if you like it, that's a whole other story.
And my staff actually doesn't even like wisdom teeth because I'm across the street from Guadalupe, and when they fail the finance deal, I still do it. I don't care. They're like, they're going to tell everyone else, or they need 4 out, but they can only pay for 1. I do all 4. It's like I can't pass up.
But you know what? Let me talk about that for a second. You know Matt Porter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Porter talked to our study club about a year ago. And he said that and he values a lot of practices. I think it's safe to say he's pretty much an expert in evaluation of practices. And he said that the practices that he evaluates that consistently have the highest value do the most charitable work.
Really?
Think there's a correlation?
Yeah.
I do.
Because you're not thinking in fear and scarcity. You're thinking in hope, growth, and abundance.
And abundance.
Yeah. So when you see that periodontist up the street, and you know the first periodontist I fell in love with, he probably didn't want me to say this on deal that I fell in love with him. Ralph Wilson.
Love Ralph. Yeah.
That guy wasn't afraid to tell anybody what he thought. You know, and he was. I just loved his intellectual annihilation of research. But he was my go-to guy for decades. Every time I got a perio question or a thought, you just send it to him, and 5 minutes later he'd give you the
It's a little
answer.
disconcerting that Ralph knows the literature off the top of his head about that question, because I've done the same thing. Ralph, what do the studies or statistics show about this? And he'll quote you chapter and verse, and it'll be correct. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, he just. I mean, and that's what you're saying. He started earlier that when you're a guy that's just totally into it, you're totally intense, and you want to be the best. There's always room for the cream to float to the top, no matter where you are. Now, if you're going to be average or burned out or not like it or have a bad attitude or you don't like people, you might have your work cut out for it. What I also liked about your presentation and your talking is you have so much self-esteem that you talk about mistakes you've made in your career. What talking podcasters are mostly millennials. What mistakes did you make in your dental career that she could learn from listening to you instead of having to stick her tongue in the same light socket?
Yeah, that's a question that there's no doubt that it's nice to look at your beautiful, successful cases and gloat and say, isn't this great? But the times that I've learned the most are the ones that were failures or certainly less than ideal. Towards that end, I'll preface it with photography to me is critical in dentistry. I think it's essential. I think it's imperative. I think it's an absolute necessity for two reasons. Certainly to document what you're doing, and then towards that end to educate people, the patients. But from a personal perspective, how are you going to know quantitatively if your work's better now than it was 20 years ago? How do you know this? Well, maybe it lasts longer. Maybe you don't see stuff coming back. But if you photograph everything and you compare overall your cases, whether it's a single tooth or a quadrant or a periosurge or an Invisalign or something, compare it to the results that you got 20 years ago to today. Am I getting better? If I'm not going to wallow in mediocrity. I'm not going to, I don't want to do that. I want to continue to improve till the day I die. So that's the first thing is photography and measure it. But going back to the mistakes, I've learned a lot from failures. And when you start putting your work up on the wall, blowing it up and looking at every little thing, you go, well, that's just not going to cut it. That margin's not great, or that I lost that papilla because I didn't plan for, 2 implants together or whatever. But in broad strokes, the mistakes I've made have probably been case selection. If you get red flags and stomach lining gets a little churned up when you're about to treat this case and something doesn't seem right, listen to that. And I haven't a few times, and I've gotten burned as a result. So that's one, is probably case selection. The other one is probably I have been a little too quick to try to make people happy repeatedly. I've made a few mistakes in that regard. I think that sometimes you got to remember the patient is the one with the disease, and if there's a problem that I can't make right, say somebody has a crown and it hurts, and so you say, well, or it's got an open contact. Of course, I'm going to replace it. So I replace it, still hurts. This isn't right. I've probably been a little too quick to bend over backwards too long. I've held on to too long rather than saying, you know what, here's your money back, or you know what, it's perfect, go down the road. So that's a mistake that I've made a few times, is trying to think that, well, this patient had a problem with Dr. XYZ, but I can fix it, you know. That's been a mistake. So red flags, pay attention, you know, patients with hyphenated last names, those kind of things. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not kidding.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's been a mistake. Probably listening a little too much to manufacturers and not enough to dentists.
How many times have we got burned for manufacturers?
Art Glass,
Targus
Vectris.
He's saying it on me.
Yeah.
Dicor.
Dicor.
My first cosmetic dentistry course, do Dicor and cement them with Duralon.
Yeah.
Guess how many of them
Yeah.
I had to that fracture and I had to replace for
100%?
100%.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Do you think the manufacturers have gotten any better, or is it the same, or is it worse?
No, I think they've gotten a little more sophisticated at hiding it. I mean, they're out to sell product.
It's like Facebook. You know, when you get on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you don't pay any money, you're the product. And these dental manufacturers, they sit there and think, I don't want to pay 20 dental schools from here to Sweden to do this long-term study. We're just going to market the hell out of it, and the people who jump on the bleeding edge will know within a year or two if it works. And man, when you're fit, I'll be 57 this year. My God, I want to see what all the young kids do, and then I want to hear about it on Dental Town 3 years later.
Yeah.
But the bleeding edge, oh my God.
So that's been a mistake that I made. And you know what's worse than the manufacturers that are doing that is the dentists that are prostituting themselves for that product. And then the next year they're doing it for something else. And the next year they're doing it for something else. And the next year, you know what I mean? Oh, the Flexi Post is the greatest thing in the world. I'm the spokesman.
And then they're lecturing at the Arizona Dental Society, and I have no conflicts of interest. Really?
Yeah.
A Google search.
Yeah.
Freaking Google
We'll
search.
tell you.
I mean, what a
Yeah.
joke. They should be dressed up as NASCAR players.
Basically wear sponsorship jackets
Yeah.
and call it like it is. I agree with you on that, you know. So that's why
What percent of the lecture circuit should be wearing a NASCAR jacket?
Oh Lord, I don't know.
Let's just piss off everyone.
Probably 15% maybe.
15?
Yeah.
That's all you'd say?
You think it's more? I don't know. I'm too leery to say, but
one of the easy tips you can do in the lecture is, okay, he's mentioned 9 products and they're all from the same company. Mm-hmm. If that isn't a red flag, I mean, you know.
that's one of the things I did like about.
But it is funny
about
over time
Gordon.
how this guy was for all these products, then he just switched sponsor. Now he's all these products.
And you're like, if you've been around a while, go, wait a minute, 5 years ago, weren't you touting XYZ? Well, yeah, but that was, you don't ever hear about that anymore.
Yeah, and that's the difference between Dental Town and Facebook. Because in Facebook, if I follow you and I call out your shit, you just delete it and block me. Mm-hmm. Dental Town isn't Facebook.
And that's why the only thing we had before Dental Town was CRA, was Gordon and Rella, And to his credit, he tried really hard to be impartial, and that was a long time ago. And I used to listen to his stuff and believe it because it was the only thing I knew that was relatively unbiased,
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is. I haven't looked at it, but I don't even know if he's still.
He's amazing. God, he's amazing. We lectured together in Pennsylvania. It was on his 80th birthday.
Unbelievable. He's got a lot of energy.
And I think that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And his older brother's still crushing it in the banking industry. I mean, oh my God, that good, clean Mormon Utah living.
Yeah, all that clean living and pure thinking finally paid off for him, I guess.
So you said something very profound that gets missed over all the time, is how important photography is. You always hear these kids saying, should they buy a CBCT or should they buy a CAD cam or a Xerox machine? It's like, my gosh, humans look with their eyes, and these dentists that and it was Steve Hayes who turned me on to digital photography back in '88 in Scottsdale near you, and today I noticed. When people talk about marketing, they talk about direct mail or social media or Google AdWords. But that guy who doesn't do any of that, but his website is just filled with photo documented cases of how a patient would want to see it, not how you'd want to see it. And those are the ones where patients are getting on airplanes and flying 2, 3, 4 hours. Imagine if you are a self-conscious older woman with dentures and you want to get implants, or you want to get very, very emotional, and you think your dentist up the street's a little dokey, hokey pokey, good old boy, whatever, but you're looking for that amazing work. And then they find out, well, I live in Wichita, Kansas. This guy's in Dallas. Well, hell, that's a 1 hour flight on Southwest Airlines. I'm going there. So dental photography is just, it's just a must.
It is, and we have different series for different reasons, but a new patient examination, in my opinion, is not complete without extraoral and intraoral photography. And a lot of times when you take pictures of quadrants of amalgams, composites, whatever, natural teeth, and you put it up on a big screen, you don't have to say a word. I don't know who told me that. I think Jim Pride, if you remember Pride Institute, Jim Pride, he was one of my mentors originally, but he was big on that, and he said, just put a picture up there and then don't say a word. It's hard for you guys like you and me, but sit on your hands for 30 seconds, and the patient will go, "What's that? What's that? What's that?"
And you know what? Why I used to always listen to Jim Pride. I think I saw him so many times. He made 5 times as much money from his vineyard in California.
Oh yeah.
His practice was
Beautiful
his hobby.
place. Mm-hmm.
It's like that guy was the last dentist in
Just
California.
like you, Howard.
No, not true. But he was but then that was the most fun after the lecture when you're done going to the vineyard and drinking the grapes all night.
I remember I was like 5 years in practice, maybe, so early 90s, mid 90s, and I saw him lecture, and I said, I'm going to go take his workshop, and I'm going to take my entire team. And at the time, I think it cost me like $20,000, which was just huge. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but back then it was like, oh, this is just crazy. That would have been like a house. I would have had to wait buying a house. And I took my whole team up there. And my dad said, "You're insane. That's crazy. This is the dumbest thing you've ever done. I recommend against it. You're going to spend $20,000 to go to a dumb management course that everybody's going to forget in a week." But I will tell you that next year, my practice revenues increased by over $100,000. And some of the systems that we learned then, we are still in place to this very day.
And they just, the Pride Institute just got rolled in. It was just purchased by, wasn't it just purchased by Spear?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. But there again, that's another thing. A lot of that Pride Institute was Jim Pride. And when he tried to bring in the younger guys or the younger people, I think it lost a little bit of its flair. Same with Omar Reed's practice. Same with, Gordon Christensen. When the younger guys come in, it's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to replace that dynamic leadership. So,
yeah, Spear Education buys the Pride Institute. Mm. That was September of 2018. This is April, so about 8 months ago.
Wonder what they paid for it.
Do you
Wonder if MTL's got a piece of that. Sorry, bud.
do you go to courses at Spear Institute?
Oh yeah,
Is near you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Frank Spear, Imtiaz, Manji, Practice Management.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, smart guys.
Tarun Agarwal and
Samir Puri.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Smart guys.
Yeah, what Samir taught me the most, not so much the chair side milling, but what I fell in love with, because it's kind of funny. I have a love-hate relationship with CEREC because I bought the CEREC 1 30 years ago. My God. I mean, my temporaries were better. And then when they came out with CEREC 2, I tried that again. So then when CEREC 3 came out, so I've been in the whole time. Well, it wasn't until CEREC 3 had an update to, what was it, Bluetooth or whatever.
The Red Cam.
Yeah, I already had 20 years of sticking my tongue in this CEREC light because I wanted it to work. But the thing that really got me with it was not using it for the chairside milling, but was the first time I saw my prep 40 times bigger on the screen, I wanted to just turn in my dental license and
It's humbling.
Oh my gosh. And I always think the fastest way to increase quality is magnification. And a lot of dentists say, oh, tell me something I don't know. Okay, well, your hygienist isn't wearing them, your assistant's not wearing them. And then you want to know why your hygienist is missing tartar and your assistant didn't clean the temperature. So everybody with wet hands magnification. All my favorite endodontists in town all have a microscope and they're only using it at 8x.
Right.
And I really like oral scanning just because you're a monkey and you have limitations. You can only see 50 microns wide. So to get that prep 20, 30, 40 times larger on a screen, I have never looked at the initial scan and didn't have to go in there and do something. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And just and you're doing it out of embarrassment. So what oral scanner do you like?
I hate to say, but I'm not super well versed on the intraoral scanners. I have used several, including Trios, and that's probably the one I've used the most. I have not used the new CEREC scanner that's brand new that's out there. It's only been out a couple of months, I think. So I'm not real well versed in that, so I don't really have an opinion yet. I've tried 2 or 3, and we don't own one right now.
Well, are you doing clear aligners?
Yes.
And so Invisalign's owned by Align Technology. They own iTero. They're trying to get everyone to use the iTero.
Of course.
So
they'll accept all of them except for the
3-shape.
The 3-shape. Yeah.
And that's a wild thing. But
wouldn't it be nice if people could somehow scan their mouths at home and then send you this file?
And then send you the scanning file.
My partner's working on some of that stuff right now.
Seriously? A home scanner? Huh.
Who knows?
That would be interesting. So I want to tell you what I would, why I wouldn't want to be you. He's like, okay.
Why you wouldn't want to be me?
Because it's a fair deal, and that is, my patients in Phoenix, they're almost every root canal that I ever did that failed and had to be extracted. Back in the day, the old man would say, I told you to pull it the first time. You're the one who wanted to save it. And then I'd give him his money back or whatever. But it seems like those Scottsdale people, patient selection, those are some more intense. I would not want to practice where you are. And so what advice do you give? I mean, you've got to know that the expectations of a Scottsdale clientele are 10x of what you'd find in Chandler, Phoenix, or Glendale or Peoria. Does it, would you tell your son stay away from these crazies, or do you like them, or how do you deal with them?
Boy, that's a good one. I don't know any different, first of all, because I've always been in that environment. But like I said, there's no doubt that the procedures are getting more difficult, and certainly the patients are getting more difficult. There's no doubt about that. So I would just say that I don't know, I don't treat them any different than I treat anyone else, no matter where they're from or what their socioeconomic level is. But I would just say to manage the expectations, make sure my competency is there, manage people's expectations, spend a lot of time talking to them in advance, documentation, informed consent, those kind of things. But at the end of the day, if someone is demanding but reasonable, I'm good with that. If someone is demanding and unreasonable, that's where I got problems. I've had patients that had a 3x5 card that put them under their incisal edges and traced the incisal edges with a pencil and fold it in half and said, look, it doesn't match perfectly. That kind of a thing. Then I think it's just a matter of managing expectations and having the confidence to say, look, this is perfect. If you don't think so, here's the name of 3 other cosmetic guys in town or 3 other great dentists in the state. And I've sent patients out of state for evaluation that weren't thrilled with whatever it was, and saying it's great, it's perfect. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So now the problem there is that I've never done a case that I was 100% over the moon about. I could always find something that I would pick apart, this and that, and so then that's where the little doubt creeps in. Like, could I have done it better? Is this reasonable to remake this case? So it's a tough call. But as far as the demanding patients, if you don't keep them waiting, you charge full fee, you manage expectations, you're honest, and you do good work, I have not really had that much of a problem any more than my other colleagues that don't have that kind of practice.
You know, the United States is a big country. You and I, when we got out of school, we watched the first round of these DSOs, Orthodontic Centers of America. Got on the New York Stock Exchange, does it on NASDAQ. They all imploded. Now you got a second round coming, and Wall Street won't touch him with a 10-foot pole. I mean, it's what society. What does it say when Snapchat and Pinterest can go public and lift, but not a place that does dentistry? I mean, you know, the country needs dentists. It doesn't need Snapchat or Instagram or anything like that. So Wall Street knows you can't manage dentists. I mean, they totally know that. But where I think DSOs are alluring is a lot of dentists, they find out when they own their own place, they got to wear a lot of hats. To me, I spent the first 10 years of my career just getting my FAGD, MAGD, diplomat, and just trying to learn. I was a cook in the kitchen. I was just trying to learn how to cook. But these DSOs come and they provide HR, advertising, accounting, finance. You're a very suave businessman. How did you learn business? And how does this kid coming out of school learn business so that they can wear a hat in HR, finance, accounting, advertising, all these things that have nothing to do with whether you're a cook or a cosmetic dentist?
Yeah, that, like I told you before, that's a tough one because your business training in dental school is probably about the same as mine, which was basically none. I was lucky that my dad was a good businessman. I mean, he retired at age 54, made some good investments. So that was my first mentor. And then I have asked successful business people that are patients and friends, you know, what do you do? How do you do it? And it's fairly simple. You know, I know you talk about money, people, and time, and Parsons, for example, talks to me about giving people what you want, monitor it, measure it. You know, he's got some business principles. Bruce Hawley's got some business principles that he's taught me, and it's all pretty simple. It's all like do good work, treat people well, be honest, pay it forward, do those kind of things. You know, greed will take you down. Fear will take you down. Fraud will take you down. Sex will take you down. Drugs will take you down. If you can, divorce will take you down. If you can avoid, right? Am I lying? Those are the things that are going to whack you in the, you know.
Yeah.
So avoid those things. Don't take stock tips. You know, I mean, there's some...
Actually, I got a really great advice on stock tips because you know, when you get my age, it's like you don't really know why something might work, or you might not know everything about it, but you recognize patterns. I think if I've done anything in my life, you just recognize patterns. And in the 31 years or 32 years I've been a dentist, whenever brokers started calling me and trying to get me to buy specific stocks, it always crashed after that. I mean, so basically what it meant is all the smart money won't touch this. Yeah. So this guy has been told by his broker to unload 100,000 shares. So they just started dialing dentists and physicians, and that's probably one of the biggest market top calls I've seen in the 4 crashes.
Let me tell you a story about that. I had this fancy 3-piece suit stockbroker, you know, when I had 2 nickels finally after about 10 years. I said, well, I got to have stocks, you know. You got to have stocks and bonds. I mean, I didn't know anything about it, but I knew that you had it. So I get this fancy guy down on 24th and Camelback, you know, the big high-rise building. He's got the 3-piece suit, drives Ferrari, you know, he's got everything. So I go, oh, this guy must be wicked smart. So he sells me Nortel Industries. Don, I got this hot thing, Nortel Industries. It's the greatest thing. You're going to make a ton of money. So I scrape up my nickels, and I give him, I don't know, 10 grand or something. And one day I was going down to his office to ask him why Nortel Industries was trickling down to nothing. And I got off on the wrong floor. And the whole floor, I see a sign that said Nortel Industries, and there was nothing there but desks and wires hanging out of the thing. They'd vanished in the middle of the night. And that guy had done just what you said. They told him, unload these shares, and that's what he did.
Oh, man.
So don't take a stock tip. The other thing about business, it's not very complicated. Debt is the enemy. The previous generations, they didn't have any debt.
Yeah, I think that
now it's almost de rigueur. It's almost accepted that you have debt. Who says you have to have a mortgage? You know, who says you have to have a car payment?
And then they're insane. As soon as their car is paid off, they go get a 5-year loan on a bigger, newer one.
Yeah, it turns out that if you do that, you end up paying more over the long run. Do you know that?
So you are with you work with a Give Back a Smile for
Yeah.
victims of domestic violence, Christina Smile Care for Boys and Girls Clubs. To talk about those, because when you mentioned Bob Parsons, everybody knows him as the founder of GoDaddy. I see him as the major funder for Chris Volchek's homeless shelter for
Awesome.
Brightway, and I go down there and
You know, he's got a HIV clinic too. You know, he's got a victims of domestic violence clinic. You know, he's got a freestanding health clinic. You know, he's got a children's dental clinic.
You talking about Bob Parsons
Yeah.
or Chris? Yeah.
He don't talk about that.
Yeah, he's an amazing. So why are you involved in Bob Parsons? Where does that come from
We're
in your
just
journey?
friends. He's been a
No,
patient.
I mean,
Oh.
where does it come from in your journey to want to give money to an HIV homeless shelter dental?
I want to give money, time, or everything I can because I have learned, like, if you start, dentistry is one thing, but life is something else. And if I have some personal philosophies that I have strayed away from and found to be the truth. One of which is, like, I have a purpose. You know, I asked my son, what is your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? You know, it took me till I was 25, 28 years old to learn what my purpose was. And everybody has a different purpose. But for me, one of the highest purposes is to be of maximum service, period. So every day, if I set out and say, what can I do to be of service? Abundance will happen. If I set out and say, am I meeting my monthly numbers? And am I going to do X amount of crowns today? Am I going to make this much money? Then I might get there. But that victory is going to be hollow, or it's going to get taken away, or it's going to get lost, or something bad's going to happen. And I just know this. So that intention of being of service, I have to focus, because my natural reaction is to be selfish, you know. My natural reaction is to be greedy. My natural reaction is to be fearful. But if I can set out every day to be of service in some way, shape, or form, good things happen. And that's a fact, like gravity in my life.
You know, and some things you can measure, like Bob Ibsen was a dentist in California. He started Denmac.
Oh, yeah, great guy.
California wanted dental materials. But it was interesting. He came out
SC
with
guy,
Rembrandt.
by the way.
USC guy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he came out with Rembrandt. He made Denmac. Anyway, long story short, he sold it for like $250 million to Procter & Gamble. And then out of nowhere, that was swallowed up by Gillette for like a 40%. Anyway, he had more money than anything. And I'm sitting out there at his house with my 4 kids. He has his own 18-hole golf course. And talking to him, guess what he did when he finally sold everything and had, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars after taxes? He his lawyers told him you can't do dentistry. I mean, he built a dental office, and he said what my purpose is cosmetic dentistry, and so he loved domestic violence. He thought that was a good purpose. Mm-hmm. And so here's a guy with $250 million. He's 80 years old. And what does he do Monday through Friday, 8 to 5? Rebuilds cosmetic cases on women whose lover knocked their damn teeth out.
Yeah.
And I told Bob, I said, you know, you got an 18-hole golf course. And I said, when was the last time you played on it? And Marcy says, he ain't ever played on it. So you think you want to be a billionaire and have a yacht and a golf course, and here's
Then
Bob.
what? Then
here's
what?
Bob with an 18-hole golf course. Mm-hmm. Marcy said he's never played on it, and he's doing volunteer dentistry because of the purpose.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So, you know, AZ Mom, the Mission of Mercy, Arizona Mission of Mercy. This is such a great thing. The Christina Smile thing through the Boys and Girls Club, which was a mobile dental clinic that came around associated with the Senior PGA Tour. I have a soft spot for Boys and Girls Clubs, but and so we did that, but now that is no more. And so we kind of transferred our efforts to this AZ Mom, which is just awesome, where they convert the Coliseum to a big, huge dental clinic. And there's, you know, I think we served over 2,000 patients in 3 days this year. It's just a phenomenal thing. No money. Doctor, patient. People are lined up 4 in the morning around the Coliseum to come in and get their dental care. Don't tell me that people don't want to get their teeth fixed. People want to get their teeth fixed. If you can separate the money or the other bullshit that stands in the way from that, that's a greater good. So anyway, I go down there, Arizona Mission of Mercy, man. Your blood and guts combat dentistry, doing it. And I'm driving home, and I talk to my wife on the phone. She goes, man, you sound like you're in a great mood. She says, how come you go down there once a year and you do free dentistry for 3 days and you're happier than hell? And you come home from your fancy Paradise Valley practice and you're like kicking the dog and throwing shit, you know? It's like, I think there's a lesson there somewhere. So, you know, Ibsen, he's doing some good stuff. Now, he's sleeping in silk sheets too. There ain't nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that I'll bet you his intent and his purpose was there before the silk sheets. I'll bet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know several guys of that caliber of wealth, and almost always they've got something a little bit deeper in their heart. And there's a point where peace of mind, serenity, family, love, those kind of things are more important than money. There's a point, you know.
So, I can't believe we went well over an hour.
Oh,
Our brand's an hour, and we're 5 minutes past that. Graduation advice to dental students is we're at April next month. 6,000 kids are going to get their doctorate degree in dentistry, and they're going to join our profession. What advice would you give them?
Be proud, be honest, do good work, stand behind your work. You know, if they didn't stand behind their work, they might as well be a lawyer. And pay it forward, you know, be charitable. That's my advice. You know, keep your nose to the grindstone. Don't think that anybody owes you something, but if you're willing to work hard, study hard, and improve yourself, I think the sky's the limit. I think dentistry is a phenomenal profession. And talk to the physicians, you're not going to hear that. You know, ask all your buddies, I'm sure you have, all your buddies that are physicians, would you send your kid to medical school? And they're always like, I don't know. You know, it's a tough gig. I got a friend who's a cardiac surgeon. He does a heart valve replacement. And he gets $2,500 after it's all said and done. That's ridiculous. That's obscene. So, advice, dentistry is a great profession. Be proud, you know. Be collegial. Complement other good dentistry. Continue education. There's some world-class, phenomenal educators out there who are not just in it to toot their own horn. Seek them out. Study with them. And then, yeah, like I said, be charitable.